Liz Truss is back in the news, and not because she's on her way to support Donald Trump in the US, but because with Nigel Farage, but because she has expressed her discontent with the portrayal of her mini budget in the Downing Street briefing materials today related to the King's speech. In a letter to Simon Case, the Cabinet Secretary, I think very soon the former Cabinet Secretary, she's outlined her grievances, particularly objecting to the characterisation of her mini-budget as disastrous. She believes that the briefing unfairly singles her out and contends that it omits significant factors such as the liability-driven investment, the LDI crisis, which she attributes to the Bank of England's regulatory shortcomings. Truss argues that this representation breaches the Civil Service Code by incorporating personal and political attacks into what should be an impartial document. There can be nothing impartial about somebody who has had such a disastrous effect on our economy and our national life as Liz Truss. I think we have to call it out. We have to stand on the rooftops and say Liz Truss was an appalling demonstration of marionette-type competence. And the mini-budget announced, now she turns around to see if anybody's watching. The mini-budget announcement during Liz Truss's tenure proposed £45 billion in unfunded tax cuts. Unfunded, but Kwasi Kwarteng liked them, and this was the substance of his prodigious package, which I loved. This alarmed financial markets. She was basing her entire policy on some sort of whim, a fantasy package. No substance there at all. All promise and no trousers. It led to soaring borrowing costs and necessitated a multi-million-pound intervention by the Bank of England to stabilise pension funds. It also led to a rocketing of mortgage prices. The subsequent economic turmoil and political fallout forced Truss to reverse many of her budget measures, eventually leading to her resignation. Hooray! Hooray! Oh, did I do something wrong? And still, she doesn't understand. Did she spend too much time training her hand gestures in front of the mirror, practicing hand jobs of no substance at all, no effect? Oh, I've got such ineffective hand jobs, she might have said. And it was the least of her problems. All the thrashing around and the looking around like some sort of lost child for approval. It's not the job of a Prime Minister to sort out in some sort of Freudian manifestation the problems of childhood. If she's not fit for office, she shouldn't have been there, and she's one of quite a number of people who should never have been given the opportunity to put their names forward. Labour has responded to the crisis triggered by the mini-budget by proposing legislation requiring the government to consult the Office of Budget Responsibility. Of course it has, it set it up in the first place, the OBR, before announcing significant tax changes, a step Truss had avoided due to anticipated criticism. The government's notes on the proposed budget responsibility bill explicitly referenced Truss's mini-budget, describing it as a case study in fiscal irresponsibility that damaged the UK's credibility with international lenders. But actually, whatever she had done would probably have damaged the UK's reputation. Truss, now no longer an MP after losing her seat in South-West Norfolk to Labour, faces significant challenges in convincing case that her grievances are justified. While some economists acknowledge that other factors contributed to the economic instability during her tenure, the consensus at Westminster remains that the mini-budget was indeed disastrous, and so was she. So I think this is just a lot of hot air. A lot of hot air whipped by the windmill arms of Liz Truss. Enough.